All right, viewer mail-in questions. Lawrence T. asks, now that you've seen the Breitling Navitimer 8 collection in person, what do you think of it, and what do you think of Breitling's new direction? Roger, I gotta know, you've been following Breitling for 2 decades. Where are they, and what do you think?
I think the first and most important thing to add is never judge a watch before you have seen it in real life. And I think it couldn't be truer when it comes to Breitling. We all saw, probably all, were confronted with the pictures when the first roadshow happened in Shanghai. Yes. So that's when we were first confronted with the new watches. And I'm glad that I wasn't the one actually commenting on them, because I really was waiting to see them in real life here in New York. And they're really good. Really good. I was positively surprised to see how Breitling is heading in a slightly different, it's not a new direction, I think it's a more refined direction. For me, it was a very positive surprise to see the watches in the flesh last week.
And guys, remember, Tim_Mosso on Instagram, I'm posting pictures of these watches, plus we're going to have hands-on coverage on this channel. But exactly as Roger says, I think the Navitimer 801 Chrono, for me, was the richest of the watches on hand. They did not have the Date 8, they did not have the Unitime, prototypes weren't ready yet. But this collection, for me, feels like the premium watch that Breitling needs, that is clean, versatile in its size. It's a 43, and it's a short lug 43. They made a specific point of paring down the lugs so it doesn't wear like a Navitimer 0143. It's not going to flare out over the edge of your wrist. 14.5 centimeter wrist, yes, you can wear it. It looks good, it feels good. For me, the highlight that unifies all the pieces in the collection is the quality of the cases, the bezels, and the bracelets. That stood out for me. Nothing felt cheap on the wrist.
Yes, and we also have to stress out that the watches we saw were non-functional prototypes. So the bezels weren't turning. We didn't see all of the models. We do know that there's going to be a slight change on the dial. They will bring back the COSC certification on the dial. So there will be some differences between the watches we've seen last week and the watches that will actually be released, I think, later on this year.
And if my guys could just cycle through the images we've got of the collection, I would say that my highlights for the collection were the case finishing. The case finishing is excellent. There are different levels of finish based on whether there's an in-house caliber or an ETA Salida. There's more polish on the in-house calibers. You'll also note that the tone-on-tone dials for the Navitimer 01, the silver on black or the silver on blue, those will also be, and this is going to be a full-line practice, exclusive to the in-house caliber Breitling watches, and not just for the Navitimer 8 collection, but for collections coming up after that. I'm also going to say that 100-meter water resistance should be the standard for every men's watch today, with the exception of ultra-thins and complications. And I would also say the wearable size, making a 43 wear like a 41 or a 40 is important. These wear like Rolex Supercase Submariners and GMTs with their solid end links, so that's roughly the fit. I will say I think the rose gold model at almost $20,000 is too expensive. I'm not sure that I buy a printed dial, which is relatively flat at that price point. I think there should have been appliques on the dial, and I think maybe you need something more than just rose gold to sell that concept. But the pricing, which Breitling says going forward will be almost without exception $3,500 to $9,500 US. I think it's spot on. I would say what's lacking, I think it's going to take some time for this to become a design identity for Breitling. I don't feel like I look at this watch and immediately say, oh, yeah, that's a Breitling. Guy Beauvais, who's the product chief at Breitling, showed me the watch in profile and said, when I see that case and I see those lugs, I think Breitling. I agree with him, but in general, the perfect profile shot of the side of a watch is not the one you see. I think it's going to take some time for this to feel familiar. In terms of the flat printed dials, I think the tone-on-tone, the two-tone dials work well. I'm not sure monotone is a great choice. I think it would have been best to use a rich dial across the line. I don't think you need that cerebral distinction between in-house and customer calibers. But, I'm kind of picking, I'm grasping at straws there. I think the watches are strong overall, especially considering the price.
Yes.
Do you think the price is, spot on for where they should be?
It is, and even if it were too much for the in-house or vice versa, I think that Georges Kern and his team has managed to come up with a collection that has something for everyone in store. Even the three-hand version really looks like a Breitling. So Yeah, I'm convinced. I think this is a strong release, and it might be even more impressive when it comes to the timing. I mean, it's just been 6 months, and we have been presented with a collection that was surprising, slightly different, but at the same time, a clear indication where Breitling is heading.
And I also have to say that there's 2 stages to this rocket. The first is the new collection. There's another new collection coming later this year and another new collection next year.